We stopped at Jupiter. Why? Because before that, we went over the 36. Let me turn it on now. So can you see the cursor? Thank you, that's kind of you. Because we needed to understand what this 35 to 36 channel is. Or rather, what this channel is, we figured that out together, right? Basically, it's a manifested crisis of emotions. It's a year of crisis. There will be crisis in everything. In this, in that, in one thing, in another, all the time. And what's the purpose of a crisis? The purpose of a crisis is to open up the abscess and move forward. That's why the 36th always looks toward the 35th gate of progress. That's why. Because the point is, because the emotions of 41 to 30, they keep swelling up, swelling up, swelling up, swelling up. And a crisis is needed. Something has to make it all come out somehow. But how can it all come out if there's no access to the throat? It just can't. So access to the throat is needed. And this year we have it. We get the 35th. So basically, we understand the program of the channel. We just needed to look at the details. We've looked at the 36th. The crisis will soon be over, they say. The 36th is in the 6th line. And everyone who was supposed to be punished for stirring all this up, well, the 510 will be punished. Says the 6th line of the 36s. That's why we looked at the 35th. And in the 35th, it's Jupiter. Well, since we looked at the 35th, we saw there, right, that it's so cool. It's really, really cool. In exaltation, in the first line of the 35th, which isn't present this year, it's not there. We have detriment. Everything is fixed for us. In exaltation, it's a different thing altogether. There, the first line of the 35th, just the same, deals with rejection in exaltation. But in exaltation, rejection is perceived in a creative way. Because the first line is about humility. It's humility both in exaltation and in detriment. But in exaltation, rejection is perceived creatively. There, rejection is perceived the way an artist perceives rejection. So you didn't take my painting. Well, that's fine. It wasn't meant to be. I'll move forward with my feelings toward progress. But not in detriment. In detriment, we see that here the artist brings a painting to the gallery and they're told, no, we won't take it. He's like, well, that's how it is. They didn't take it. You know, it even seems more like this is an artist who, when he gets such a rejection, is just looking for an excuse to let out his accumulated dissatisfaction with the world. It's not so much that he's really bothered by the rejection. He just needs a way to let all of that out. And we all know this from everyday life. We know it. We meet a huge number of people who yell at us for no reason at all. And if we're more self-aware, we understand that, well, the person just needs to let it out. At home, his life is so-so, his wife is an alcoholic, and his kids, well, they're bad too. And there's nowhere for him to let it out. So the person is actively looking for a reason, really searching for someone to say something bad to him, for someone to refuse him something so he can start yelling. That's a kind of exaltation. So we've covered Jupiter. Naturally, we had to look at Jupiter from another angle, from the unconscious side of the program, from the red, from the 45th. It's all connected, you see? The full 35 to 36 channel goes to the throat, and the 45th is also in the throat. So it's all somehow interconnected so that there will always be someone who wants to take it on themselves. The 5th line is the rescue line. The 5th line saves, whether it was given the right or not. At some point, the 5th line is eager to save. Well, naturally, without knowing their own strategy or authority. When 5th lines do this, when they don't know where it's appropriate to do it, to save someone, and at what moment it's right for their design, then of course it's always the collapse of the projection. It's always very unpleasant consequences. But here we have exactly this kind of program of unpleasant consequences for rescue actions. And I titled this to 35 to 36, if you remember, right? That's someone decides to save, takes on the rights of a leader, decides that they make decisions for everyone, starts making decisions, and then the group, which never chose them even once, says, no, what is this? We don't need any of that. Well, and of course the leader gets a no, so they start yelling, venting their energy. And again, there's a crisis, and this crisis will somehow be resolved, or rather worked through, and that's how we move toward progress. So that's how it looks for us. That's how all three of these programs look. The most important thing on this slide is for you to see that the hidden power of 2025 is the 36th gate, 6th line. The true hidden power is the profound ability to not only remain steadfast and resilient in the midst of a challenging crisis, but also to effectively manage and skillfully navigate through it, encompassing the crucial capacity to thoroughly process and deeply understand this inherent darkness. To endure this pit with an inner knowing that it's okay, soon it will all be over and everyone will get what they deserve. Everyone who needs to get something will get it. Everyone will be punished. That is the hidden power. And now the law here is this. The unpleasant part is that when something is set in the program, it means that such events will happen. That's it, they're programmed. And later we will be able to recall all these interpretations and say, this is that self-destructive reaction to, and here, this person claimed leadership but had no right to. In other words, this is the law. This will happen. This will happen. I won't get tired of repeatedly emphasizing that even at the very end of the 125 comprehensive slides I meticulously prepared, I still deliberately included this particular slide from the year 2024 because once it has been thoroughly said and articulated. This is especially true about this specific topic, concerning future forecasts and predictions, particularly when I initially gave my detailed prediction for the year 2005. Thank God, in our archives at least, we still have the text of that forecast. And I won't get tired of repeating that. The program is not intended for us, nor is it designed for those individuals who are diligently striving to endure and persevere. Instead, it is about truly following the inherent and intricate laws of one's own physical and energetic body, a body that is uniquely equipped and has consciously come here for its own distinct and personal fractal line, which essentially represents one's individual and profound journey through this entire life, meticulously progressing from an initial point A to a final, ultimate point Z. If we embark on the profound journey of experimenting with and actively reclaiming our inherent uniqueness, allowing our physical body to gracefully move and express itself along its own natural and intuitive path, then the intricate and unfolding program of the year relates to us in precisely the same profound and immersive way. A captivating movie displayed on a large screen relates to an engaged and attentive viewer comfortably seated within the darkened confines of a cinema. Well, it seems to have something to do with us, but only as with a viewer who is watching a movie, who is looking at the screen in a cinema. So remember this. All of this is being played out and will continue to be played out in this world. And this world is just this world. And we can't escape from it, but we don't have to participate. We can simply watch. We don't have to be those leaders who take on authority. We can avoid receiving rejections and naturally not react violently or with humiliation. Because the program for collective humanity is annual, but each person has their own individual program, their own solar return, their own chart. Well, everyone has their own. So it's interesting to take a look because we've pretty much covered the solar plexus with you. We looked at the 36th, we looked at the related 35th, but there's also the 22nd in the solar plexus. And Venus is there. That's cool. Venus, for those who might recall or remember, is indeed the second planet from our magnificent sun. It truly looks incredibly beautiful and quite serene from the distant perspective of Earth, but in reality, it's actually an extremely aggressive and rather hostile environment if you were to get any closer, primarily because it's just a colossal mass of incredibly hot, swirling, and toxic gases. It's a planet that's quite inhospitable to humans, but Venus gives us a program everywhere. Whether it's in your personal chart, your annual program, or your individual solar return from your birthday. Venus provides a program for well-being, daily life, and harmonization. It's a very, very domestic planet. This planet isn't about mutation, no, not at all. It's like this. I even wrote a slogan for Venus. Well, calm down, why so abrupt? Let's do this gently. Even if there is something that might be considered bad, or what some might refer to as a bad line, in quotes, Venus has a remarkable way of presenting all of it harmoniously and gracefully. She truly makes everything appear so incredibly beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, so let us now explore and discover what wonderful and beautiful things Venus graciously brings into our lives and experiences. And one, this is truly interesting. It's an intriguing and fascinating combination because at the very same time we have Venus, representing harmonization, profound beauty, the essence of daily life, refined aesthetics, and all those delightful things, tra-la-la-la. And then we have the 22nd gate, which embodies inherent dignity, elegant grace, and a wonderful sense of openness and receptivity. Well, they're just so elegant, these 22nd gates. And we also have the second line. And the second line is talent, it's beauty. And I truly think this is a really cool and quite significant addition to this particularly turbulent, indeed turbulent and rather stormy 35 to 36, with the very intense and remarkably powerful 36s and the rather strange, somewhat peculiar 35s in the very first line. Venus is like, it's this little bit of balance. Otherwise, it would just be too much. So now we'll add the 22nd in the second line. Let's read it. The line has a cool name. I love it. I absolutely love all the names of the 22nd gate lines. They're amazing. Some of the coolest names. If there were a competition for line names by hexagrams, the old ones would win. Really cool, just cool. The second one is called the Institute of Noble Maidens. Belief that style can disguise substance. You remember, right? The Institute of Noble Maidens. I'm just thinking now, what were similar types of boarding schools called in other parts of Europe? Because that's a significant reality of the historical Russian Empire from back in the day, isn't it? Girls were sent to this educational institution and they were supposed to be educated and polished in terms of their behavior in high society. Education was required only to the extent that a young lady in high society wouldn't let her conversation partner get bored. Style was a must, posture was a must. These were given the greatest attention. How a young lady walked, how she stood, how she offered her hand to a gentleman. At the very highest level, there was such an institute in the Russian Empire called Smolny. That's where the October Revolution began. The Institute for Noble Maidens at Smolny. It was, in essence, the most elite, the very highest ranking institution for noble women, specifically for young noble ladies of distinguished birth. So you can readily understand that a significant 90% of their time was primarily devoted to learning how to behave physically, how to properly conduct oneself with grace and decorum physically. Then all these intricate rules of etiquette, indeed, the greatest amount of their precious time was spent meticulously focusing on that, and not so much on formal education, just enough perhaps to adequately maintain a polite conversation and to truly know how to attentively listen to your interlocutor with understanding. Of course, the man is the main one, right? So the second line is called the Institute for Noble Maidens, the belief that style can mask the essence. Exaltation, the ability to successfully mislead oneself and others. That is the white book. The ability to attract others with an emotional style. And the downside sounds like the legalization of the superiority of form over content. Here, style is activated through awareness, What is meant by the word awareness? By awareness, what is meant is truth, reality. Because we possess only two fundamental centers that are truly capable of accurately determining the absolute truth. These crucial centers are specifically the spleen and the profound emotional center. The spleen inherently determines the immediate truth in the present moment for the purpose of survival and immediate well-being, while the intricate solar plexus center diligently determines the truth in order to fully comprehend, to become deeply aware of precisely what I am genuinely dealing with, to profoundly and completely realize the full scope of what I am truly encountering and engaging with. This is the domain of the solar plexus. All people with a defined solar plexus have come here by virtue of their design, with the responsibility to determine the truth and to speak about it. And they are capable of this, and Gate 22 is especially responsible for it. And when they don't do this, then the whole world of open solar plexuses learns that this is something that shouldn't be done. Open solar plexuses are always liars. Liars. And they learned this from somewhere. They learned it from there, from the old gates. So what do we have here? What are Gate 22 throwing into the 35 to 36 channel? They're giving us a somewhat more civilized form, a very clear and indeed profound manifestation of crisis feelings that truly and deeply need to be expressed so that ultimately, eventually, finally, to fully uncover all of this intricate information and truly understand the world we currently live in, precisely where we are going and exactly why we are heading in that particular direction. So the 22nd gate, in its essence, genuinely gives all of this a certain distinctive charm, a very unique style. And on one hand, this particular aspect can potentially be a somewhat negative thing because the 22nd kind of, in a way, covers up unpleasantness with beautiful flowers. But on the other hand, it can actually be quite good because, sometimes, quite frankly, you just genuinely can't handle the intense feelings that arise. Sometimes they are indeed very heavy. And in this particular sense, it's quite good when they are given some kind of definite form that makes them more bearable. So honestly, the 22nd gate is truly, in essence, kind of the fundamental law of all civilized societies and communities. Forms of governance. If you want to rule, you better civilize yourself in your manner. Do you want to take a shoe and go to the podium and start banging your shoe on the podium? They'll tell you, listen, man, that's not serious. And everything cool you wanted to say and everything right and the truth, well, it's all for nothing. Nobody cares because that's the way you're presenting it. You see, I'm talking about Khrushchev. If anyone knows about that incident with Khrushchev when he was at the UN banging his shoe, he took off his shoe and banged it on the podium. Well, there you go. If he hadn't done that, people might have listened to him. Maybe they would have actually heard what he had to say. So what was it he wanted to say? He wanted to say that the United States is crap, it's a bad country, and that capitalism in general is bad. But if he had said all that in a civilized way, with a straight back, with some style, people would have listened to him, they would have had to listen. But since he was banging his shoe, it just became a funny anecdote in history. That's why I think it's not a bad thing, not bad at all, that this year, as a counterbalance to the 36th, we were given Venus with its 22. Let it be. We're all already on the verge of a breakdown. Humanity is on the verge of an emotional breakdown. Well, let the 22nd be there. Is that clear? Let's put together a little formula. Let's do it, because ahead of us lies a very big formula. We'll prepare a little bit. Let's add 22.2 plus 35.36, a full channel, which includes 35.1 plus 36.6 and plus 45.5. So here we have a small formula regarding the throat of the observer, which is intimately connected to our deepest emotional matters and inner feelings. Keys. That's how I put this formula into words. an experience that must, because of the law of the year, play out on the stage of 2025. Cologne. Actions for which no rights were given. Plus the ability to mislead. Plus an exit from crisis and changes in the form of receiving rejection, and the subsequent consequences in the form of lack of humility and loss of dignity, plus madness, which is a just punishment. In simple terms, this is what will happen to everyone who does not follow their type strategy and does not listen to their inner authority in connection with this part of the program. When we are overwhelmed by hopelessness and darkness due to various life events, we will nevertheless maintain our composure, misleading everyone about what is really going on inside us. But inside, our feelings will be devoted to the belief that everyone will get what they deserve. But forgetting that this is in the hands of higher powers and that we must be patient and wait, we will start manifesting actions. Supposedly the impending punishment of those because of whom we suffered, for which we will figuratively or literally receive slaps in the face that will knock us off balance, even to the point of losing our dignity, or as the Japanese say, losing face. This is one piece of the manifestor's mental part of the year's program. You have considered it. Let's move on. Take a good long look at this year's impressive throat center and see what's new. That is, look at the place where the year's programs are supposed to be expressed. In many years, nothing is expressed. Everything remains beneath the surface. But this particular year, things are being expressed quite directly. So if you carefully count how many activations of the year are actually in the throat, and 6 of them truly make up channels, specifically 3 distinct channels, 3 more channels, 3 additional channels, 3 complete channels in the throat, 3, and the throat is indeed charged in a manifesto way. It is powerfully driven and powered by a motor. Then we see that 11 out of 26 programs of the year are working towards expression. 11 out of 26. 3 channels and 4 hanging gates. It's going to be a very loud year, a year filled with significant events and impactful moments that will demand attention. Really, it's going to be a very, very direct year, one where intentions are clear, communication is straightforward, and actions are unambiguous. What's interesting to note is that we've already analyzed one channel, and we've analyzed one activation. This is collective. This concerns humanity. This is truly about the profound upheaval of what has already significantly accumulated within humanity, and indeed a great deal has accumulated there over time. This particular year will inevitably expose the inherent problems and challenges facing humanity. This is a year that will shout at humanity, asking, what have you done? And humanity will be shouting at each other. And we also have a collective channel. It's 1762. This is the channel of understanding the design of the organizing being, and it's mental. It's about how we understand what exactly is happening in the wider world around us, and precisely how do we truly relate to all of it, how we deeply understand it mentally, and how we can effectively express it through our articulation. In fact, this is a channel that's, when expressed through articulation, provides others with valuable information on precisely how to better organize their daily life, how to more effectively distribute their various activities, how to truly be effective. Well, that's not quite the exact word. How to do it better in such a way that everything is worked out in detail, so that tomorrow you don't have to do this work again, to create, as it were, a foundation for tomorrow, a thoroughly prepared foundation for the next day. This is the channel of an organizing being. Whoever possesses this valuable channel, after carefully considering and thoroughly thinking it through, can effectively tell someone how to much better organize their professional work and tasks. And it is also collective, which means that once again, we are talking about humanity as a whole.